Hey guys, this is Weston Kulik, and this is going to be my research presentation on the Johnston's organ in Apis mellifera. So Apis mellifera is the scientific name for the western honeybee. These bees live in populations usually ranging from upwards of 20,000 or more in the summer when their populations are high. And these bees use complex communication techniques to work together as a single colony unit. A huge variety of plant species are pollinated by these western honeybees, and they utilize their gyroscopic sensory processing, made possible by the Johnston's organ, to be able to fly home. Johnston's organ was discovered by Charles Johnston in 1923 and is present in numerous flying insects such as fruit flies, mosquitoes, and honeybees, and also ants, I think. The Johnston's organ for honeybees is located at the distal portion of a bee's antennae and is responsible for many sensory functions and for communication purposes within bee populations. Research from 2005 shows that the Johnston's organ is made primarily up of 3 sensory regions, and other research from 2007 shows that the Johnston's organ responds to both airborne vibrations and ground vibrations. Waggle dances, which is a function of the Johnston's organ, were discovered in the 1920s and 30s, but not attributed to the Johnston's organ until the early 70s. Now scientists attribute most of honeybee communication techniques to the Johnston's organ. I think insect flight and communication are both extremely interesting, and I was especially curious at how the Johnston's organ was discovered and how scientists do research on the Johnston's organ in honeybees. I'm also interested in the discovery of the waggle dances and how researchers decoded the meaning of some of these dances. Carl von Frisch was the father of the waggle dance, and he was head of many experiments involving honeybees in modern-day science, attributing much of the known knowledge of honeybee dance language to Dr. Frisch. He published a book in 1967 about the dance language of honeybees, but the Johnston's organ wasn't attributed to honeybees until after 1970. And I believe the start of his research was done in the 1920s and 30s on waggle dances. Charles F. Johnston is the father of the Johnston's organ, naming the sensory organ after himself in 1923 when he discovered the Johnston's organ in mosquitoes. The Johnston's organ in mosquitoes at the time was observed to be sensitive to vibrations and capable of detecting sound. He made the hypothesis that this organ was capable and responsible for processing sensory information in mosquitoes. In the graph on the right, we can see the results from 2 separate tests in 2004, one with the waggle dancers on the dance floor, which is the air sample from dance floor, and one with a swarm with no active waggle dancers. The top graph shows multiple spikes and 4 conspicuous compounds, which scientists attributed to these waggle dances. The non-waggle dancing swarm showed normal, non-spiked levels for the most part of these compounds. While the Johnston's organ was first discovered outside of Apis mellifera, the Johnston's organ has a distinctive purpose for honeybees, although there is some overlap with other insects. The Johnston's organ was first identified in honeybees in the early 1970s when H.C. Bennett Clark used an electrode and a stimulator to send signals into the Johnston's organ of a honeybee and analyze the response to different types of ranges and signals. He was able to identify different types of sensory cells within the Johnston's organ, which each contain distinct characteristics. In the data table, we can see the results from an experiment in 2007 where scientists inserted a recording electrode for 10 trials and recorded the SEP, or sound-evoked compound potentials, from the antennal nerves of living honeybees. The 265 Hz vibrations were thought to be reasonably close to that of the waggle dances, and this allowed the researchers to compare different vibrational patterns and different frequencies in relation to bees' age and physiology. Scientists have decided that there are 3 main parts to the Johnston organ in honeybees. The dorsal section, the ventral section, and the anterior section are the most responsible for sending signals to the brain. The dorsal section is responsible for detecting vibrations along the vertical axis of the honeybee and are particularly sensitive to low frequency vibrations like the beat of wings. of its own wings. The ventral section is responsible for detecting vibrations along the horizontal axis, and these are particularly sensitive to high frequency vibrations, such as the buzzing of nearby bees. The anterior section is responsible for detecting changes in the direction and speed of movement. This section is able to detect small changes in acceleration and speed through flight and movement of the bee. All of these regions were discovered in the early 2000s and published in 2005 by Lindemann and colleagues. The Johnston organ truly serves a crucial role in the success and survival of honeybee colonies, western honeybee colonies particularly. Apis mellifera has evolved waggle dances using or possible by this Johnston organ to be able to scout, construct the hive, and potentially they use these for mating as well. Scientists that do research on the Johnston's organ help scientists and science understand the way honeybees communicate, and could potentially help scientists better understand our environment because of the way these bees utilize the Johnston organ to detect change in their environment. Honeybee communication, as made possible by the Johnston's organ, is extremely vital not only for Apis mellifera populations, but for the environment and ecosystems as a whole. Honeybees use their sensory organs to communicate during everyday pollination and foraging tasks. So without their ability to communicate and detect change in their population or environment, they would surely begin to decrease in efficiency and population, thus impacting the environment around them to a massive extent. And these are my references.